Okay, guys, welcome to this morning's Fife Property Show. So this morning, we're going to be talking about a controversial subject, especially for estate agents, because it's move or improve. Should you sell your Fife home or stay and extend it? This will be an interesting subject. So I'm going to ask two experts to come on here. So we've got Perrie McIntosh, so estate agent Perrie McIntosh. Hi, Perrie, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Fabulous morning again.
It is, definitely. I've had my 4 miles running. That's it, done.
Oh,
before it
good
got too hot, because then I sweat enough. I sweat just talking about running. That's how
At least you did it.
Even now, I'm just getting over my run. It's just coming out of me. We've also got Jimmy Mullen in. Hiya, Jimmy. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, guys. Yeah, really well, thanks. Looking forward to today.
Brilliant golfing weather today.
I'm playing tomorrow at Charlton, so we'll see. Hopefully it holds out.
Yeah, I saw a few people out in the course all ready and set to go. Some guy had this, I actually thought it was a cat he was carrying on his bag, but it was his driver cover. It was just this big massive ginger fluffy thing, and I had to take a second look and think, no, it's not. And it was like one of these fake cows, you know.
Oh, okay.
With the horns. But I thought it was actually a ginger cat sitting on top of his clubs.
Taking out for a walk on the course.
I know. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for watching. And you're more than welcome to ask questions throughout the process and comment as well. If you get a chance, please take time to share this post as well. This is one of the most controversial subjects for an estate agent. I'll explain why. Move or improve. Because if you begin to improve, you're not selling your house, therefore you're not making any money. But initial reaction, what's your thoughts about move or improve? Just initial reaction, Perrie.
Oh, for me, I think it's a really good subject because, as you know, it's something that I am currently doing just now. So I think it just really depends on what you have, the size of your property, what you need from it. And I think for me, it was very much a case of move because I had to downsize.
Good stuff. Move for you. Let's see if you change your mind by the end of the show. Jimmy, what about you?
I would say it comes down to circumstances and forward planning. Mainly, if you're a family, you're going to live for your location, you're going to stay there forever, then obviously extend. But if you're not, then I think it's move.
Well, that's the end of that show. We can all go and play in the sun now.
That was nice and easy.
For me, with 2 young children, I couldn't go through extending, but that's just me.
Personally, for me, I would say at this point in time in this market, my gut reaction is stay and improve and extend if you can, especially. And we'll talk about that throughout the show itself and why that is, why I believe that is. I might listen, by the time we get to the end of this and the debate we'll have, it might be the case that I might actually change my mind. So it'll be interesting to hear everybody else's comments on this, whether you should move or improve, and should you sell your Fife home or stay and extend. That's the real answer. I mean, some questions in life are unavoidable. Aside from whether the chicken or the egg came first, we don't know about that yet. I've still not worked out. I've kind of resigned myself to the fact that forget about it, Jim. It's just going to
the great unknown.
Yeah, I know. At some point along the line, you begin to wonder if your home can evolve with you, or if it's time to say goodbye and find somewhere new in the process. Moving is a big step. We can't forget that. And it's an exciting time as well. You know that, Perrie, as well. But whether you're running out of space, looking to downsize or condensing or considering a change of location, there's more to selling your home than just a property transaction itself. There's memories, attachments, and neighbours are often difficult to leave behind. And it can become a challenge to separate the emotion from the logic. Many local homeowners face exactly the same dilemma as you, remember? So this week's show is all about starting a conversation. It's not designed to steer you into selling any more than to keep you where you are, but it will hopefully give you food for thought to reach a decision that is actually right for you. So let's talk about this subject in essence and go into the detail of this. Size matters. There are 2 reasons why your home might feel the wrong size. You're either outgrown it or you no longer use all the rooms. Now, Perrie, classic example for you. Size matters. How does this apply to you?
It totally applies to me. And actually, the biggest thing for me, I felt, was when we went into lockdown. And I know everyone's got a different journey with that particular subject as well. But for me, what I found was I was going into rooms purely and simply to clean them.
Yeah.
And I was actually forgetting all the beautiful things I had. And then once I cleaned it and I saw how beautiful the rooms were again, I thought, oh, I love this room. And then I'd go out and then I'd go back into it the next weekend. And it went on like that quite a lot for me. And at that time as well, Billy was offshore and the boys had left home. So there was me and the dog in this property just basically rolling around. And it became, whilst there was lots of memory in the home and it was a property that had lots of kind of fresh emotion for me in different parts of my life, it was hard for me to leave it. And it was a long time making that decision to actually then say, let's depart it. Billy wasn't for moving at all. He loved the house. And then when I went back to work and he was on furlough and then he was rattling around in it on his own, he started to say, Perrie, actually, I'm beginning to get it. He says, I'm knowing how you're feeling because I'm walking into rooms and I'm going, oh, I forgot this was in here. And it then became real. And actually all the emotion kind of then disappeared because it started to feel cold, the house, because it was empty rooms that weren't getting lived in.
Jimmy,
so, yeah,
what about yourself?
It's important.
I briefly touched on it. For me, I couldn't deal with the hassle of extending with 2 young children, family. I couldn't be bothered with it, to be honest. It would also come down to.
Does that surprise us, Perrie?
No. I probably could have
Jimmy.
quoted the answer.
Go on.
Why
Charlotte's not there?
Yeah, she probably will be. But actually, we were talking about how much longer we wanted to be in our current house last night. She wants to probably be in here a little bit longer than me. But I said, well, we could always extend, and she just went no as well. For me as well, I know this ain't our forever home. So I know we're going to be moving again, and our plan will be to move to something that probably is slightly bigger and could be our forever home as well. So ideally, our next move's forward thinking is going to be a bungalow, probably with at least 4 bedrooms. But the hassle, the forward thinking, and also in the area that we are in, if I was to extend, I'm also thinking about it financially as well. Would I recoup the money that I would put into the extension that I would like to do? It'll be touch and go.
Long term, I would say the answer to that is yes, because you always recoup long term. Short term, the answer to that would be no.
Yeah. So there's many factors that you do need to consider when this subject you are thinking about extending. And it's not something that you should just probably jump in with 2 feet and think go gun ho. You definitely need to speak with experts and plan it properly as well.
So let's look at when you need more space then. An extension might be the answer for you if your home feels too small. Well, if you simply want more space for the family to gather, like yourself, Jimmy, a single-story extension to the rear can provide the spacious and sociable open-plan family space and the kitchen for everyone to be together. You know, it's quite a popular choice now where everybody does the open-plan kitchen, dining and living room itself. So what do you do when you want an extra bedroom or 2? Converting a loft or a garage? 2 more straightforward things. What else could you do to add more rooms?
Annex in the back, not necessarily an extension, but an annex in the back. But I think a double story with a garage or carport and a room above is the only option you got, or extending to the side where you can change the sort of floor plan downstairs by the hallway, where you might be able to have a room leading off, not off a lounge or the kitchen or the dining room would be the one that I would be looking for, because you'd have to be careful what a surveyor can class as a bedroom as well. So you need to make sure that you're configuring it properly.
I've seen a lot of people just actually put the metal ladder going up to the attic and just making it another bedroom. I've walked into a couple of properties like that recently, where there's just a metal ladder that comes down from the attic and they just go up into a makeshift bedroom. It's not legally a bedroom, but you know, it's their house. They could do what they want with it.
Yeah, I think there's an element as well whereby if you've got a garage, again, I was speaking to a client the other day, and what they did with the garage is they converted that into a small kind of kitchen diner, bedroom, bathroom. And I think that's an element that can be easily achieved. And as you say, does it qualify and can it be signed off? Or it doesn't really matter if you're the family that's living there and you've got a long-term plan. But I think the important factor as well, when we're talking about bedrooms, it's okay to add additional bedrooms, but just remember as well that if you've got additional bedrooms, it means your family's bigger, which means you need more bathroom. Yeah. So how do you fit that in as well? I think that's really important that you take that into consideration.
It's looking at your current space and seeing what you can actually do with it. I popped down to a property yesterday in the East Nuke area to look for someone, and he's got 2 bedrooms, 2 reception, and it was off the kitchen, but it was a big enough room that they were using it as a bedroom off the kitchen just now. But it had a door going out to the back. It still had the window, and then it had the boiler in the cupboard, so it was adequate to use as a bedroom. But would it really suit as a bedroom where it was right off the kitchen? Possibly not. I don't think that would be the case. So I did say to him, I think the surveyor's going to have an issue and say, look, it's probably 2 bedroom, 2 public. But that's fine. I like that. And it's in essence, the kitchen was big enough to have a dining table in, a small one with 4 chairs. But that's about it. So it was a usable space for something else. And it's kind of what you said, Perrie. It's looking at what you've got just now and seeing if you can adapt it to a better use or a more efficient use. And the classic example is the conversion of garages. Cooper Mills, the properties in Cooper Mills are ripe for that. They do that all the time, don't they?
Yeah, 100%. That area in sort of Hogarth Drive, Robertson Road, where they're integrated, is a really good ones that you can do it with as well. Just thinking in Cooper, and also the East Nuke ones would be like Fairhaven Court, Crescent, and Skeef Road, Acorn Court. They're good.
It's a totally different ball game, isn't it? It's like for example, you're not going to huge cost anymore of actually having to build an extension, and you're not actually trying to get what is the scarce resources now. You're actually getting a builder to agree to it. That's the issue. All you need to do is get a joiner and an electrician to refit the whole thing inside and make it compliant, and use it for your purpose. If it means you've got it for 10 years and it stops you moving for 10, it allows you to not move for 10 years, then it might be cost effective just to have that and for the 10 years and then just to convert it back to what it was without the permission. And just go back to the garage. Because how much would it cost you to do that? I think to kit out for stud, if it's only a bedroom or you're only putting stud and electrics in, you're only talking about 2,000 or 3,000. How much does it cost to move? Your best part of 5,000 upwards.
Yeah, definitely.
So there's my argument and my debate straight away for the fact to stay where you are if you've got additional space that you could actually accommodate to use for something else for yourself in the next 5 to 10 years, and it would do you that for that purpose.
Yeah, there is that, but I think as well, me, the downsizer, I think that does work. And when we speak to clients, who are downsizing, like I have done, they always say, well, actually, I ideally would like 2, 3 bedrooms, but I would go to 2 if other rooms could be rejigged and if I could remold the layout. But again, when you're remolding that layout, I think an important factor is we're talking primarily families here. And I think if you're going to be remolding and using your garage and using your loft, the key elements that I have found, because I've got a room in this property at the moment that's still full of boxes from when I moved, because I thought I had decluttered, but I didn't declutter as much as it was necessary.
I know somebody that's done a good guide for that.
Really? Well, I'm going to need it, because decluttering for me is a big thing. But also, if you are downsizing and you're remodeling your space, where do you store all your stuff that's in your garage and in your loft? Yeah. So you have to kind of keep that in your mind as well. So it's all very well saying, oh, we can do this. But once you've emptied it and you've created this bedroom or shower room or whatever you want it to be, where does all the other stuff go that you've taken out of that room?
It comes down to, if you have a garage and it has the correct foundations, it'd be easy to build up the way on top of the garage.
Mm-hmm.
And then that means you maintain that area, but you're actually creating another room above it. But you need to make sure you've got the proper support for the first floor extension. Really, that's what comes down to. Remember that there are more bedrooms and more people mean more bathroom time as well. So it's like what you said. The person that had actually converted their existing garage had made sure they had a WC and a sink in that as well at the same time, because you're creating more space for more people. Therefore, it would make sense to have at least another WC and sink.
It really does. And actually, again, coming to this situation from where I've been, we've come from 3 washing areas to 1. And even just with 2 people in here, with just having one washing space is a massive challenge, timing-wise. In the morning getting ready, and somebody's in the shower, and you need to go to the bathroom, and you can't get in the room, and it becomes, it's a challenge. So yeah, I've experienced it.
I considered downsizing at one point, and I thought there's no way. After a while of serious thought about it, it's like there's no way I could go down to that. Where am I going to keep all my cats?
I know they've got a whole sitting room.
they've got their own rooms. So ask other questions whether it's a loft extension will leave you short of storage space. Exactly what you said, Perrie. And if losing a garage will have the detrimental effect on the demand of your home. So that's really when you need more space. But what happens when your house is too big? What do you do when your house is too big, Perrie? Downsizing.
For me, it's a real challenge, because you do have all these rooms that you've lovingly cared for, you've furnished them, you're emotionally connected to them, there's memories that have created in those spaces, and that's the big dilemma that we had. And from the topic coming up, it literally did take us 12 months to convince each other what we wanted to do. And even at the point of doing it and starting to pack things up, and you were having to make choices about what you were doing with furnishings and all the items you've collected over the years, where does it go? Do you want to let it go? And then the reality becomes, actually, you have to, if that's the decision that you take, which is the choice that we made. And actually, I didn't just do it because of the size of the property. It was also about, for me, it was a lifestyle choice. And when we got married, Billy and I, we had our children quite early in our marriage. And so we kind of did all of our family first. And now we kind of feel we want to flip life and have our time. And so I wanted to make sure that financially we could do that, and by downsizing it's allowed us to be able to do that in a comfortable way. So there was lots of elements as to why I made that choice, to be honest, or why we made that choice.
Jimmy, you've got all this to come. You've gone up the way, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, downsizing, I don't think I could ever see myself downsizing. I would always want, with my family living so far away down south, I'd always want a place for them to come and stay. I don't have that right now, so if my family do come up, they have to book in and stay in hotels, etc. Or Airbnbs or whatever they want to do. So also a lot of my friends are still down there as well, so I couldn't ever see myself personally downsizing at all. And I can understand why people...
You'll get to it, don't worry about it. And the reason that you'll get to it is because it's like what Perrie said. You'll get to rooms that you think, I'm dusting and cleaning these rooms every single day, and nobody's using them. So, and I get it completely, because I got it early on in our days where it was just Elaine and I. We went to a 3-bedroom semi-detached, and I had 1 bedroom which just sat with storage boxes for the next 3 years. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, I'm paying council tax, I'm paying a mortgage, and I'm paying everything for this room that I've never ever used, and I'm not going to use for anything. Why on earth have I got it? It was a complete waste of money. And then I was maintaining a garden, which I really didn't want, so I didn't see the purpose. And that's when we ended up downsizing at that time, because it was beyond our needs. And then we upsized later on.
Downsizing is an age thing as well, I think. You're right with that. And as I've gotten older, the garden thing I loved. As you know, Jim, because you sold my house for us, we had a huge front wraparound side, round the back. I loved everything about it. And for years I enjoyed it. As I've gotten older and I've got arthritic hands and things are changing in life, and then suddenly actually the garden became a burden and I wasn't enjoying it anymore. So it was really important for me to change that as well. So the upkeep of a larger property is a big thing as well, not just physically, emotionally, but also financially as well. And why I just felt it became actually more of a burden of a property rather than enjoying it.
Do you think there comes a point where you start to resent the house because you're having to keep it all up with all that money?
I did, to be honest. And that's what I ended up doing. So when I was trying to convince Billy to move, I literally ended up doing the whole get the bank statement out and was writing everything it was associated with our total outgoings, and then all of the outgoings, how much of that percentage of that was involved in the house. Yeah. And when you actually see it in black and white, you suddenly go, hang on a minute. And you think, actually, this doesn't make sense.
Right. And then you go to yourself, wait a minute, that's a holiday every year.
Exactly what I said earlier. It was about my lifestyle choice then. And I thought I could be doing so much else with this money.
Yeah. priorities. When you put that into perspective, isn't it? It's the classic example. If you're spending an extra 2,000 or 3,000 every single year on your house when you don't actually need all that, then you've got to earn maybe about 5,000 to get that.
Exactly.
So you've got to earn £5,000. So how much work do you need to do to earn £5,000 just to get that 3,000 in your bank?
Absolutely true. And what it has done as well, so not only have we got a better work-life balance and social element to our life and enjoyment of each other again, but actually it's allowed us to help our family. So it allowed us to help both of our boys get set up in their properties and get them settled, which means our grandchildren are now settled. And so actually where you get all this emotion connected to the giving up of the property, I've now got positive emotion knowing that everyone else is settled and happy and got the lives that they want.
Yeah, perfect. And I'm going to say to Jimmy, this will go right over your head, isn't it? Watch this back in about 20 years' time.
Yeah, exactly.
When you'll begin, they were right. That's because that's what happens. You don't realise that at the time. Whereas like, oh, I didn't get that at all. It goes straight away. And then for me, it's point of readiness. It's like you begin to work that out. The cogs begin to go and you can think, I could do a lot more with this. Let's talk about the other one as well, which is balancing the work and the life. What's your thoughts on this, Perrie?
Work and life is really, really important. And actually lockdown, to go back to that, for me was a big factor in making choices and changes. So I had quite a big commute from where I was, but as you know, Jim, through my story, and lots of people, friends that are maybe watching just now will know this of us. Billy and I travelled quite a bit throughout the UK, so we were away from Fife for a very long time. We always planned to come back to Fife again. We were away for about 25 years, and we came back to Fife, and we came back to this area, which is where we both grew up. Billy grew up in the Burscream, I grew up in Mount Fleury, and we always wanted to come back. And then we came back, and to be honest, I didn't want to leave it again, but my job was some drive away. So on a day-to-day basis, I was driving for about 2 hours. So you're getting up earlier, you're getting home later, and it became a bit of a burden, to be honest. And then I was fortunate enough to have the kind of thought process of assessing things. I didn't want to leave the property, so actually it was the job that had to change at the time because I didn't want to leave the area. So hence why I'm sat here on the show. But that for me was a big thing. So I didn't necessarily want to move where I lived, although I did kind of change houses, but it was still within the same area. I moved job actually on that occasion, so it's slightly different and going off piece with the topic, but it's an important factor to where you live and how you commute and how that impacts your day and your working week.
What about yourself, Jimmy? Balancing work and life.
I would say you need to, for the individual, you need to try and figure it out yourself, because everybody's work-life balance is different. Like going back to my days when I played golf, there would be people that they didn't practice, or they just played golf. They didn't practice. They didn't feel like it worked for them, and they would play great. But then there's also people out there that was like myself, and I'm a bit like that in the job as well, where I needed to practice every day. I needed to be keeping my eye in every day. I needed to feel like, and I feel like if I didn't, I'd be losing ground on everybody else. And always wanted to know what was going on. And I'm a bit like that now in the properties, like always checking my emails, trying to make a few phone calls a day, etc., etc. But also, I'm quite good as well. I can switch off for a few hours a day as well. But that's enough for me. Charlotte will say otherwise, but for me that's fine. And I know you're like that yourself, Jim, but you got to find what works for you well and what keeps your mind sane and also sharp, because otherwise if you work yourself into the ground, you'll miss things that you shouldn't. Yeah,
absolutely. Good morning, James. How are you? Interesting for your comments, James, because I know you're an investor and you're actually quite prolific just now. So we're talking about move or improve today. Should you stay? Or should you stay and extend, or should you actually move house, and the reason why? So I'll be interested to know your comments on it, James. Anyway, so I'll tell you what work-life balance for me is. Well, when I worked at Standard Life in Edinburgh, I was commuting every day from leaving, and it was taking about almost 1.5 hours to get into work and 1.5 hours to get home at night. So 3 hours every single day of my life was commuting. And then when you worked it out, it's like, well, wait a minute, it's 3 hours of my life. It's unproductive. It's a waste of time. You never had podcasts or anything at that time during the war. Yeah, for most people that's years ago. So you never had anything like that at that time. So you couldn't make use of your productive time. And I came to the conclusion, actually, rather than actually get a bigger salary, it'd be better to actually live closer to home and work closer to home at a less of a salary, because it worked out more economically better for me. Because we actually took the decision to stay in Leavenmouth. Whereas we could have easily moved to Edinburgh at the time for me to accommodate for Standard Life. Thank goodness that never happened. I'd still be working today.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have any
I won't have a job.
So, I mean, no amount of home improvements, when you think about it, will make your journey or work easier in that process. So if you're already tied to the commute, then it's about pain, and to get painfully longer, then moving somewhere to give you that convenience is probably the right thing to do. On the other hand, perhaps working from home is the new norm. When I work from home all the time, more or less. So it doesn't really matter. And I'm away to Spain next week, but I'll be working from Spain as well. So it's the new norm, basically. It doesn't matter where in the world. And I've always done that. Even 30 years ago, when I first started in property investment and being a landlord and being a financial controller, I actually worked remotely anyway. So when I was on holiday, I actually worked remotely, and I was able to do that. And I've always done that. So it made no difference to me for when things like lockdown happened. It's like, well, that's the norm for me anyway. I just do it a lot more. So so if you can work anywhere else in the world, and you can work from home doing it, then you would probably stay where you are. Dining table's a fine occasion for a occasional workspace, but you do get the aggravation when the tea gets put out and you're in the middle of something. And I don't know about you, but I like to finish things.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy when it's like, right, when are you moving? So I've actually relocated to another room for that purpose. It's got the newsroom, so you can see round about it right here.
It's like you say, it's the move or stay thing. I think the working home office is now a major factor in many people's lives now, isn't it? And guys, people watching won't know, but we were having a conversation, the three of us, before we went on air, and I'm moving home again because now I have found the property that we want to own. And at the moment, I'm sitting in a corner. You've got a bit of a different view from me this week, but my laptop is sitting on the tallest wooden box that I could find that didn't make me look up or down. And I'm like you, Jim, and we've spoken about this as well in the past. I'm used to having a home office. Downsizing, I didn't get that, so I do miss that a little bit. But when I go to my next house, I will be able to have that again. And I do miss that because at the moment I do have to sit in the lounge. We've got the open plan. We've got the dining lounge, kitchen. So actually, it's not just myself that is impacted by it. My family are still trying to live in the home while I'm doing this. So it's always quite interesting in regards to interruptions.
Yeah, for me personally as well, it's also the boundaries you've got to consider as well. If you're going to be working at home, can you actually physically close that door? Can you actually switch off? For me, it's a big challenge. It's easy just to and Elaine keeps going, where are you going? But she knows I'm going to disappear, and I'm going to, but I'm just going to look at something or check something, and then like an hour later, I'll come back and it's just sitting with the film on pause.
Yeah, that's what I was like.
Like just watch it, or don't watch it, or switch it off, or however you want to do, because it is easy, and that is the balance between the work and the life. If you're actually going to upsize or you're going to downsize, you've got to really consider that. If you're going to work from home, this is going to be a difficult thing to do and to actually switch off. It's easy to walk out of an office and then just come back the next day. But it's not easy when it's sitting in your doorstep. Hence the reason why in the very beginning, I actually bought Caledonian House down at the golf course, because that was meant to be a physical way for me to get out of the house and keep my work away from me. So that was one of the work-life balances that I'd actually taken at that time. The next thing to think about, is about schools. Education is hugely important, and considering the parents and getting the children to the right schools, a driving factor behind many moves. I've often had people move to areas just to physically get the catchment area for that school.
Yep.
Have you guys come across this?
We get it a lot. And Anola, in the previous show that we did 2 weeks ago, we spoke about how you advertise a property. And certainly for us as well, bullet point wise, when we're advertising a property, we always try to put the school catchment in there, because it is what happens. It's a major factor for a young family, isn't it, to make sure that the children can get to the school that you want them to get to. But I think you've got to be careful in that, because again, moving is an expensive thing. And so don't just be thinking about primary. You've got to think about high school as well, because actually if you've got the right primary school, but then the high school that you want them to go to is not in that area, then you don't want to be having to move again. So it's a massive factor for families. And when people are registering with us, they constantly say to us, anywhere as long as it's in the Wade catchment, or as long as it's in Bell Baxter catchment, you know, they're very clear on what they're looking for. I mean, Jimmy, for yourself, as part of your thinking of, would you stay in your home you've got just now, or would you move, and how long would that be? That would probably be the first thing that you and Charlotte think about, is what about the school, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we're thinking about that already with Zara, because our childminder's in Letham. Now she's just about to start a nursery. Childminders aren't cheap, but we need to take advantage of what we're allowed to in the nurseries. But the Letham's quite rural, so we've got to try and find the closest one.
Yeah, it's the travel back and forward as well, and the time absorbed doing that. So it's cost and it's travel and everything. You know, when I sent my boys to Wade. Well, Tony went to Wade, my daughter, and the boys went to Madras. But I tell you what, it was 30 quid every single day, or every single week. So it ended up about £3,000 a year in buses. But when you think about that, about the cost to actually move to St Andrews, or it's actually crazy. Well, get the bus. It's like there's no way I'm moving. There's no way I'm paying double the amount of what I've got here. Effectively, that's what it was, and that was the decision. But it was a sacrifice we made at the time. I mean, you know, we weren't flush, but it was something we had to do. So it was necessary in the process. So education is hugely important. We're lucky in Scotland. We can actually choose or apply to go to schools, even though they're outside of the catchment area, for our children, and we usually typically get it granted. Whereas the English market, they've got a totally different thing. If you're not in the catchment area, you often don't get that school. So we're quite fortunate in Scotland that we actually have that choice. I mean, some people don't have the choice because they don't have the money. But then, as I say, it really comes down to sacrifices. You know, I would rather not have a holiday and send my kids to the right school on the bus.
100%. But a lot of the people I go out and see, as one of their top criteria is it needs to be in the catchment area of YZ school. That's one of their top priorities. So
the top schools, I mean, it's Madras, isn't it? It's Wade. It's Balwearie. It's all, there's some really good top schools in Fife in terms of education standards, in terms of the surroundings that you've got and the facilities that are available. There's no doubt about the Fife education system has put millions and millions of pounds into resourcing some really good schools and facilities now, and that should pay off in the medium to long term in terms of what they're doing. And it's key actually for a lot of people to, we know yourself, it comes down to when they think about schools, it's like it definitely comes down to the catchment area. London Links is now the cut-off for Wade, where it wasn't before. And London Links and Largo fought vigorously to actually get that catchment area extended for that purpose. So people actually extend themselves to that there just to get that catchment area, because that helps them facilitate costs. Because if you're in the catchment area, then you get the bus service as a result of that. So for schools with strict catchment areas, there's little choice other than to live within that. If your current home is outside the zone, it's time to look for somewhere new, possibly. Before the beginning of your search, think about longevity of your move. If it's for a primary school today, will you need to move again when the secondary school beckons? Perhaps you can find a location with access to the both to avoid up-sticking for the second time. If the catchment areas aren't an issue, then think about your journey to school. Are you getting up in the morning for the school run every day? And are you up for that? I know some people actually get up every single day from leaving and physically take their children to Madras and St Andrews and back every single day and pick them up every single day. That is a huge commitment to what they're doing. It's a joy for some parents, it's a bind for others. But if your children will be making their own way to school and a public transport or cycling a realistic possibility for where you live as well, that's another one. Is there good cycle routes to the school itself? I often cycled to Park Hill when I went to Park Hill Primary. and then just change my bike up in the cycle sheds. So I often did that as well. So that's another option people can think about. Lifestyle choices as well is quite an important one. Fun. I mean, sometimes people just fancy a change, and it's like change for change's sake. And that might be how you used to spend your time at home, or do you want for what you want from your neighbourhood? That's an important thing as well. I mean, perhaps the issue here is discovered an unexpected talent for cooking, but your kitchen is cramped with your style. And so some people actually just move for that purpose of a change for change's sake. What's your thoughts on that, Perrie? Change for change's sake?
I think change for change's sake is a good thing. I'm probably the wrong person to ask on this, to be honest with you, because we changed quite a lot through our journey and through my working life. And Billy and I have been married now 27 years, and we've lived in 11 properties. So we've done quite a bit of change. But we're now at that point where we don't want to be keeping changing. And the cramped thing I've really noticed, because I've found my love of baking again. And I have an open plan living space and where I'm at. And whilst it's great, actually cooking in the kitchen area for me is just a nightmare. I've literally got things everywhere and on tops of other cabinets, and I actually extend into the living area because I've nowhere to keep anything. And so, we had planned to actually stay in a rental longer. But all those little things, now you suddenly appreciate actually your lifestyle is not as great quality as you would want. And it's silly little things, like you say, it's just cooking or going into the garden or things that you want to enjoy and experience with yourself and your family. So yeah, for change's sake, I think it can be good and positive and rewarding, but it has to work. Yeah.
I'm even at the point that I actually couldn't consider a bathroom without 2 sinks anymore. Work that one out.
So that's 2 bars of soap to make sure that they're in the right place then, Jim.
I never thought that was a problem. I genuinely never thought that was a problem when I was younger. I was like, I never thought I would really need a bathroom with 2 sinks. But for some reason, there is the odd occasion that you walk in and somebody else is using the sink and you think, I want that other sink. So that's the reason why we've got 2 sinks. And that's why it is a lifestyle choice, isn't it? Really, when you think about it, it's you need a bathroom with 2 sinks. I tell you what, I need an ensuite. Where did that come from? It's like all of a sudden I need an ensuite. There's folk living in mud huts in Africa, and I'm thinking about I really need an ensuite.
I know, it's terrible, really, isn't it? It is what you get used to, because I miss my ensuite. That's the one thing I do miss from my old house is my ensuite. And I won't have one at my new house. But yeah, we just have to be careful about what we're doing. But it's working all the balance. You're never going to get absolutely all of your ducks in a row, as they say. But I think that it's about achieving the best lifestyle that you can have from the property of your choice, isn't it? Whether that is moving or whether that is staying and just making some changes.
I can imagine Jimmy would want an indoor golf range. One of these ones where you play your shot and it goes and it hits the actual photograph or whatever it is, and then you see your ball going flying into the background. Is that something that appeals to you, Jimmy, as a golfer?
I did talk about that with Charlotte when we bought this house, actually, because there's a double garage. But it'll be further down the line yet. But Zara's just started saying she wants to play golf. She's only 2 as well, so and maybe sooner rather than later, hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, I've just proven my point about living in my office in the lounge, because the doorbells went, the dog's gone crazy.
Yep.
Sorry, folks.
What I think I wanted. This is one of my things that I always wanted. I wanted a discotheque and a bar. I wanted a discotheque and a bar in my double garage. I'll never ever have it because I think it's a complete waste of money. But it was just one of these things. It's like, I would love to have something like that. I would love to have a recreation of the Oasis discotheque.
Oh my goodness! Now we are showing our age, Jim. The Oasis. Jeez,
I had a guy a client in Ladybank that had that. He'd converted his garage into the front bit with his storage for his work. The back bit was all plasterboarded with a disco ball up top at the TV. They had a sheltered area over the back with his another TV outside and like his barbecue pit there and everything. It was.
And then how many times have you used it every year? Once. Probably once or probably never. And that's exactly the reason why I came to the conclusion, Jim, you're an idiot.
Think how much fun you would have, though.
Don't bother. It's a waste of money. You're never going to use it. And it's the things like, I always wanted an indoor swimming pool. And one guy says to me, the upkeep is horrendous. He says, I had one in Australia because I always wanted it. And it's like, and it costs you thousands every year. And I thought to myself, I'm no buying something like that. That is a complete waste of money. I'll go to the public swimming pools. That'll do me. And it's true. It is that sort of, that is why people have the lifestyle choices. It's exactly what you said, Perrie. They want a bigger kitchen. They want a creative studio, for example. They want an artistic studio. They want something for a home office. They want all these different things. I mean, James says, there you go. Hot tub is on our list. Will you have a room for that, James? Or will you actually just do an outside gazebo? I would do the cheap option and say, do the outside gazebo because you're just taking up a whole room for a hot tub, but you'll use maybe 1 or 2 times in the year. And that's about it, really. So it is pure lifestyle choice. And so if you find yourself dreaming of getting closer to nature or having the shops and cafes nearby or living near friends and family, it's maybe time to make the move as well. That's a classic. A lot of people actually just move because they want to be near our shops, they want to be near our golf courses, they want to be near the beach. These are all lifestyle choices. They're not absolutely necessary, but it is on people's cards. But then, as I said, I come back to my accountancy sort of thinking and think to myself, do you really want to spend the best part of, by the time you're finished with the whole exercise, depending on what type of house you're buying, if you're upscaling, you're talking about the best part of 10 grand just to move. Is it really worth it? Could you do actually something else with that? Could you just extend what you've got there now? But I suppose lifestyle choice, it maybe doesn't come into play. It does when you need more space, but if you're needing a different location, your choice is made. You have to move.
I think it is about lifestyle. And I think, again, that lockdown has taught people that, isn't it? Elder people perhaps want to live nearer their adult family, be nearer their grandchildren, be near outside space, be in a garden. They want to be able to enjoy every moment in life now because everyone kind of felt like everything was taken away, isn't it? And we've got a recent couple that I've been dealing with, and they have done exactly that. And they've actually moved from England to Scotland to live in Leven and have bought a lovely house there. And their family live around the corner. Their daughter's around the corner. The grandchildren are around the corner. They're right beside the beach. The kids can walk down to their house rather than a 6-7 hour commute to see their family. And so it does make a big difference to what you have and what you would like to have. And that's not always about things, is it? A lot of it can be about people and places.
It does come down, and one of the ones, and I've spoken about in this article itself that we've written, but it does come down as well to the quality of life, because there is people that actually you move nearer your family because you need more support and care now. That's a big factor in making a decision to move now.
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, that's why Billy and I ended up back in Scotland earlier, because at the time we were living in Hampshire in the New Forest, which we loved. It was really a beautiful place. And we always planned to retire, but in maybe 5 years from where I am at this moment, but we've already been back for nearly 5 years. And it was because of that. I was elder parents who needed support. And you want to make sure that you're there to be able to achieve that and to create those memories that you can have in latter years.
Yeah, absolutely. Romantic rewards. Here's the classic: love. When love strikes, that's a classic example when people actually downsize, upsize, because when it strikes, when it turns, and people start to think, should we live together?
Amore.
It's the classic. The obvious choice is for the partner with the smallest home to move to the other partner with the biggest home. That's really what it comes down to. But it's not. It's a quick and straightforward solution. But does it actually reflect both your lives equally? Now, this is a classic example. I've seen this happen. I was next door before from the house I'm in just now. And the reason that they sold that to me in the beginning was the very fact that they got together later on and she viewed that as the other wife's house. And that's the reason that they sold, because she couldn't bear the fact that she was going to live in this house with his other ex-partner had actually chosen. So that's why they chose to move. So it was the other side of the romantic rewards, and the fact that, you know, she didn't want to because it was chosen by his previous ex-wife. So that's one of the reasons that they moved in that process. I mean, so that, you know, while you think it's an easy choice to make, there is some dynamics that actually come into that. I mean, each of you have probably moved to where you are for particular reasons. Handy for work, but there's another one. Your favourite neighbourhood, the close to friends and family, and you could end up with one of them feeling very, very much at home, while the other one actually feels marooned because you've chosen to move somewhere else. So often it is the case that people actually do that and change for that reason. You know, they sell both houses to find one that accommodates both of their wishes, don't they?
They do, and I think that's a big challenge, because actually you both perhaps have a romantic connection, but your lifestyle and how you've lived up to that moment has been very different. So how does two become one, I guess, in regards to that move? It's a challenging time. And I had friends actually who recently have done that, not because they didn't want to live in each other's homes or anything like that, but actually they felt it was a natural progression in their lives to not each have their own homes where history had happened, but to then have their home. But bringing both of your requirements together into one is difficult.
It does. I mean, the feeling stuck in someone else's home is really a recipe for friction in that process, and another move before long. That's really what it comes down to. So take time to understand what each of you want in this situation, where you want to live. It's a new beginning that should be right for the both of you. I mean, that's the best advice I can give people getting together for the first time and actually meeting later on, is really consider what you want both each and where you want to live as a result of that. And if it does mean the two houses that you've got doesn't accommodate, then the answer to that is actually sell. Jimmy, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think sometimes you need to take a step back, and maybe if you're lucky enough to have two properties, maybe try live in each for a certain period of time and see which one works better for you at that time. But then you can make a decision on which one to sell and forward plan and make the right choice of what area you want to be and what you do need and what you don't need, because a lot of the two properties are not often the same. So it's just taking a step back and assessing everything before you jump in and just, this used to be this person's house, or that person's house, or it doesn't have this or that. You do need to think about it before, because as we've already discussed, moving house isn't cheap, so it can cost you thousands of pounds if you jump into it and make the wrong decision.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on this, Perrie? Your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are, I think that every individual, it's a massive decision, isn't it? It's the one thing you spend the most money on, and I think togetherness is really important. But actually, with that togetherness, I think the final most important part is that actually you will both still need to compromise, because you're never going to bring two things and make it one thing. So there is always going to have to be compromise on both sides to achieve what you want.
Yeah, most people get together because of the romantic rewards, is because it's saving a lot of money, because you've got two houses running, effectively. You know, two mortgages running, two council tax running, two utility bills, especially just now, running as well. And that tends to be why they tend to get together as well, because it makes absolute sense, because they've been together for all these years, living at separate houses, but taking time. So a classic example, Jimmy, is what you said. You know, they do actually live at each other's houses now and again, and they've obviously got used to it. So I've often had them both come to us and say, look, we've made a decision, we want to sell both houses because it doesn't make sense, or we are going to move into one house because the other house we don't need anymore because it's the costs. That's what I tend to find. Any stories yourselves, guys, about what you found?
I've recently been out to somebody who's moving in with her partner. He rents, but lives in the area that they want to live in. She's got a smaller property, so she's going to put hers on the market, sell it, so they have the deposit ready for a house that they do like when it comes up. So she's going to sell, and they're going to move into rented, so they can forward plan and see a lot of things that they like. It's all just about assessing the situation and making sure you're taking your time with it as well. And
It is about lifestyle as well, though, and about your family choices, because actually I have a situation where it is 2 houses, but it's not a monetary aspect. So one house has been sold, the couple are coming together into their new one that they're purchasing, but actually the lady's home is actually going to then go to her children so that they have a home of their own. So there's other elements too. It's not always just a financial thing. It's always about trying to do the right thing for your extended family.
Yeah. So James actually makes a good point. That's how he got starting buy-to-let rentals. His last house was repurposed as a rental just now, as now they're in their forever home. So they actually had that, and I've seen that with a lot of investors have come to me recently and had a chat with me, and the fact that their partner has actually got an existing home, and they're kind of thinking to themselves, do we really need to sell it, or should we actually rent it? And so they've actually sat down and thrashed out the numbers and thrashed out whether it would be worth doing that or where they would actually make returns, because you guys know yourself, you're getting nothing in the bank. So why on earth would you just sell the house, take the money, and then put it in? And then if you're getting a mortgage, if you're selling that house because it's got equity in it, the additional house, and selling that house because it's got equity in it to pay off the existing mortgage you've got in it, but you've got that house that can make you money, maybe a 14% net return, and you're going to take it and sell it to pay off a 2% mortgage, that makes no sense at all. You've been as well keeping the asset and renting it and actually making money out of it at the same time. And I always say it's as good as money in the bank, because you've got the equity in there still that you can dip into if you need to remortgage in order to bring a wee bit of money out to go and do something else you want to do. So often, again, in the plan of doing that, I then say, well, how much you got in that? Well, I've not got a mortgage on that property. We'll take some of that money out, and then you can build your extension, or you can improve your existing house with that money, and therefore that's still tax deductible against the asset that you're making money on. To a certain degree, there's taxation implications about mortgage interest at lower rate only being available, not a higher rate, but that's another question entirely. James actually says it makes sense just about every single time, and I would agree with that. In that situation, there's a few scenarios where it won't make sense to do that, but again, that's why it's worth talking to an expert in terms of who's done this before, who understands the dynamics to get the right answers, the right decisions for that. Okay, guys, any final words on this before we finish off? Let's talk about, overall, have you changed your opinion and why? Or have you stuck to your opinion and why? Right, Perrie, over to you.
I've stuck to my opinion. I am absolutely very excited about moving to my new property, which is much smaller than my old property. And the reason being is that the property will tick all the boxes. It'll give me the space to enjoy my lifestyle, but actually it'll also give me that financial comfort blanket to then look at securing my future a bit further. So for me, I stick to my guns.
Jimmy?
I would stick to my guns as well, and personally, for my circumstances, not extend. Too much hassle. But I just think it comes down to the circumstances of the person. For me personally, I'm in exactly where I want to be in terms of schools, location to work, go get easy access to whole of Fife. So as long as I can stay in this area, in a bigger property, why would I need all that hassle of extended?
For me personally, I think it's you've got to weigh it all up. You've got to weigh up the implications and what you really want. And I think it is actually a good suggestion is write down all the pros and cons about why you would want to do something. So the first one is all about if I stayed where I was, what would be all the benefits to stay where I was? If I moved, what would be all the benefits to where I moved? If I stayed where I was, what would be all the pitfalls? If I moved, would there be any adverse effect as well? And that comes down to everything we've talked about in here about the accommodation on offer that you need, whether it suits your current lifestyle, whether it suits your working practices, whether it suits the other people living with you as well. As a result, your family and your surrounding friends and your community. There's a lot of things to take into account. So, while I said quite, in a either black or white issue here in the beginning, I was quite thinking about stay and extend. I'm actually on the fence now. And that's a politician's answer, isn't it?
Jim on the fence.
I'll tell you why I'm on the fence. tell you why I'm on the fence with this, and I might pick a side at the end of this. Actually, I might say, right, I know where I am, because I'm thinking it through now, because I have thought it all through, and we've had this discussion. I mean, it is, if you sold, it's the huge financial cost of selling. It would put me off, and it's the move as well. It's the fact of the huge hassle of having to move and find another property, and it is a big thing. Whether I've inherited that from my mother and father, because they're rattling about in a big huge house in the links. And I keep saying to them, why you just downsize and find a bungalow? My dad's like, well, I've not got very many years left yet. and why would I need to move and get all that hassle? It's like, that's what he's come to the conclusion. It's quite straightforward. Now you know where I get it from. So it's the huge financial implications of actually moving. And you kind of think to yourself, would that be better spent on extending where I am, and the lifestyle and everything that comes into that capacity of doing that? So I would, at this point in my life, it is stay where I am, but not extend, because I am at the stage of they're now beginning to grow up, leave home, and all the rest of it. I'm kind of just probably 2 or 3 steps behind your decision, Perrie, in terms of what you've done. Because I've still got 2 boys in the house, and they're still like, I can't see a day where they'll ever leave. If you're a young person out there, don't leave your parents' house. You save an absolute fortune. You don't pay for a mortgage, you don't pay for utilities, you don't pay for food or anything like that. Save your money, invest it wisely, and buy to let, or in pension funds and stuff like that. Make an absolute fortune and a killing for the medium to long term with that money. That's what you do with it. Don't spend for today, save for tomorrow, and it'll pay off big time. That's my answer to everybody. It's staying with their mother and father just now. Stay with them as long as you can until they prize you with a crowbar.
I'll give you a counter argument to that then. Parents, when they do leave, downsize. They can't come back.
We ran an advert with that, actually. The advert was, and it was on Kingdom FM, where what was it? The young girl was going, right, that's me away at university, and then you heard their car door shutting, and the first thing the dad said was, woohoo, right, let's sell the house. And that's my plan. And then his wife kicked in and went, well, wait a minute, we've got to think about the implications about whether they visit again, stuff like that. Maybe we should speak to an expert. Let's give Jim a call and speak to him and all the rest of it. I'll show you that. I'll let you listen to that advert one day, because it was quite funny about the whole process. And he said, oh, wow, that's maybe just the 2 of us together now. And she went, oh, God. It is a big choice, isn't it? It is a big choice, downsizing. And the very thought as well, I tell you what, when the children leave sometimes, people look at each other and go, oh my God, I'm going to have to live with you for the rest of my life. And that's why I got a dog. Yeah, and that genuinely is because, and this is a whole show in itself, isn't it? Psychology. Oh yeah. And the fact that because you've nurtured and looked after the children all your life, all of a sudden you're left with a huge void. And that's where it becomes like, wait a minute, I now, who's this person I'm living with now? And that's when you have to really focus on other things and actually have your own things to do in your life, really, outside of that, and your own interests, because then you start to focus on another person. And that's when you do get the point where people come to you and say, look, we're selling the house because we're splitting. Yeah.
That's a positive end.
On that cheery note.
But you're right, though. And actually, as a mum, and I know I made the joke about the dog, but as a mum, actually, when the boys did leave home, I was rattling around in the house, but also for myself personally, I did have a little bit like kind of abandonment issues because I'd been nesting for such a long time that suddenly I didn't have that. And I never thought I would ever have a dog. Now my dog's like another child. So
and
you can make life good.
The first thing I do when I walk into people in that situation where they think I can't stay with that person anymore is I actually sit them down and talk it through. And a lot of people don't realise that. We're not just estate agents. I actually have a lot of experience of this. And I actually say, is this a definite? Is this definitely what you want to do? And I often things like, maybe you should go to couples counselling and stuff like that first to work it all out and see if this is the right thing for you to do. But it's not about keeping you together. It's about getting the right way forward. And that is the positive point of this.
Yeah.
And on that note, that's us for this week. And we'll see you all next week at 9:30, and I'll do some vlogs in between. And watch the update for tomorrow night on the weekly update, and I'll be talking about some of the properties that are coming onto market quite soon. And from all of us on the team, bye bye for now.
Have a good weekend, guys.